Welcome to the Teach series. My name is Devon Godfrey, and I'm a programmer that stubbornly tried to be an artist for 10 years. For the past 5 or 6 years, I've been developing websites here in Genesee County, and I've built over 200 websites. Now, I'm going to share with you some of the secrets that I've learned building all those websites. You are also going to learn some of the deepest, darkest secrets of marketing. And I am also going to share with you how you can ethically use these secrets in your own business. Let's get started.
Maybe real quickly, go ahead and introduce yourself. Maybe share like 3 cool facts about you.
Okay.
Start with that.
Well, my name is Devon Godfrey. I'm a programmer that stubbornly tried to be an artist for 10 years. I've been working for the past 5 or 6 years trying to solve the Genesee County website problem, and we'll get to that here in a bit. But some facts about me, as you probably guessed, I love programming, love computers. I especially find Raspberry Pis to be a lot of fun to play with. My interest in programming actually started in game development, and I have a corn snake named Tep, and she's pretty fantastic.
What kind of things do you do for fun, like outside of the things you kind of mentioned there?
I read a lot. I also, YouTube is my vice. I watch a lot of talks by people I find interesting, and I also watch a lot of video game related content and work on cutting that down, especially working on cutting down video games in general. I uninstalled Steam. That was a big step, my friend. But anyways, that's pretty much, journaling. So journaling is also a big part. And this may sound so boring, like the stuff that I'm really doing for fun and all that, but I've been working very hard for the past couple of years into great results and rewards on integrating my life more fully. So, video games are great, but, it's unless you're a video game journalist or a video game designer or developer, it doesn't really integrate with what you do. I don't want to have work-life balance. I'd rather just have them all just be one and be like, okay, this is cool. And that's pretty much, where I've been working for the past couple of years, is figuring that out. But yeah, just getting that done, getting her going, and my fun is also my work. I guess what it boils down to.
Awesome. So if you had to describe yourself in 3 words, no explanation, what would those 3 words be? 3
words. That's an interesting question. I'm glad you asked that, and I'm taking my time because I know post-production and all that. But if I had to describe myself in with 3 words, I'd definitely have to say caring, focused, and intelligent.
Now I'm going to ask for the explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you pick those 3 words?
Well, I know that I'm fundamentally a bit of a softie, and in fact my latest studies have been in a very interesting area that I'll just call healthy aggression, and how to use aggression to actually improve your relationships with people instead of just simply trying to suppress it. So that's caring. And then focused. Throughout my entire life I've always been very focused on the end goal. And in fact, bring up Seneca later in the interview, and I'll explain to you another driving force of my focus, because that's an interesting topic. And then third is intelligence. I would under no circumstances self-proclaim myself as an intelligent person, but that tends to be the feedback I get from people, so it works pretty well.
You mentioned Seneca?
Seneca. A really fun guy. He died in the year 63. He was a philosopher from back in the day. He focused a lot on the art of death and dying, or living the good life. He wrote this book called On the Shortness of Life, and inspired by his book. So I have been for about 4 years now living under the assumption that I'm going to be dead on 11/9 of 2026. And let me tell you, man, living with your life on a timer, that really puts a lot more focus behind all your actions and puts a lot of other things into perspective.
Can I ask why you picked that date?
It was just 10 years into the future
So
from
at
the
that
date
time.
I started. Yep. 10 years is not so little time that you can't get anything done, but it's not so much time that's impossibly long into the future.
Yeah, so it's not so far into the future where you can't realistically set goals,
Mhm.
would you say?
Yep.
Do you find that you're a goal setter? Like, do you like setting goals?
Oh yeah, it's a very important part of what I do. Like setting goals is the fundamental tool of taking your ideas and turning them into reality. And if you're not setting goals, then all you're doing is responding to what the world is enacting upon you. And it depends on the world you're living in, but especially in today's world, it's going to push you into some dark places if you let it.
So what kind of goals do you like to set for yourself? Like, do you have any examples?
Well, a very simple one. My 5-year goal is married and financially independent. I'm engaged, so I got one half of that on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But that's a big one. Financial independence is very important to me because I spent a good number of years working for an electrical contractor and like other various odd jobs. And not that there's anything wrong working a job if you're working for the right people. More often than not, I found I wasn't working for the right people. There's nothing that frustrates me more than a bureaucracy. But the key thing is that I want to be able to have my core needs met on 5 hours or less per week. Now, I still work like 40 to 50 hours per week, but everything past that ought to be icing on the cake and not required.
So I'm going to assume you've read the 4-Hour Work Week.
I've read that and many other books. Oh, there's so many books. The 4-Hour Work Week is, of course, a good one. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is also a very important book. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, another very important one. Road Less Traveled. The list can go on. There's so many really important. I read about a book a week.
Oh, wow.
I'm actually reading one right now, Panzram, it's called. So remember I told you I was studying the art of healthy aggression. So since I'm such a caring, sensitive individual, I'm like, okay, well, let's go completely off the deep end. What's the most monstrous person, that has ever existed? Now, of course, you may think Hitler, but I'm like, yeah, but there's been plenty written on the man. I wonder if there's something that might be a little bit more subtle. But what I found was this Karl Panzram guy, who he was executed in like the early 1930s, late 1920s, but he was this, he was one of the most violent, nasty men that the United States prison system ever, had, and they had no idea what to do with this guy. And he wrote all of his memoirs before his execution, and it's been interesting reading about this guy. And I love how Jordan Peterson put it: evil bloody well exists, and understanding true evil gives you a sense of what is evil and what isn't. And there's nothing evil about being aggressive when you're aggressive for the right reasons instead of not being aggressive at all.
What exactly do you mean by healthy aggression? Like, can you give an example?
I can give you a perfect example because it was just last weekend. I practiced some healthy aggression to actually amazing results. So I was visiting my parents, and my parents are currently remodeling their bedroom. And my mother, she was going on about, man, I need someone to help me paint the bedroom. And I just asked, well, what do you need help with? And she said, I need someone to hold the paint bucket so I can, so I can paint. I'm like, really? You can't just set it on the ladder? Because I knew which ladder she was using. It was a 4-foot ladder that I used to use when I worked for the electrical company. And she's like, well, I could, but it will fall off. It's like, are you sure? Because there's a big hole in the center meant specifically for putting stuff into. And she said, well, it will fall off. Well, hold on. Went to the kitchen, got a Dixie cup, a small paper cup, fit perfectly into that hole. I'm like, yeah, just put some paint into that cup. It's like, Well, my paintbrush won't fit. It's like, really? Well, okay, where's your paintbrush? Oh, well, I don't have one with me right now. Ah, here we go. Fits. And, you know, like every single excuse that she came up with to not paint the bedroom, you know, I just immediately presented the solutions. Like, and that took some aggression against my own mother to get her to see that. But later that evening, she was just painting away, and she got it done, and she felt great. You know, my dad said it best, and this is a very human struggle. It can be really hard to get something started, but then once you finish it, you feel so good about it. And she felt so great once she got the bedroom painted and touched up. And I think they're about ready to move back in now, so they're both very excited about that. But that was an example of practicing, you know, healthy aggression. And, you know, and it really means something because it was against my own mother. And what I'm finding is this interesting dynamic where, so say you're communicating with someone about something, and it's something very important, and you have like purely constructive reasons for convincing them of one thing or another. The person that wins the argument is the person with the most conviction. And you can get conviction from just about anything. You know, you can get it from your knowledge, your experience, what people say about you, your self-esteem. And aggression is just energy that you can use to express and push your conviction. And what's really unfortunate is you have a lot of kind-hearted people with no aggression and no conviction, so they have no way of propagating their kindness, if that makes sense. And that's one of the things that I've been really learning in my studies of Panzram.
Nice. So when you were explaining healthy aggression, it kind of reminded me of like a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
So that healthy aggression, I feel like maybe that can carry over into sales.
Oh, easy. Yeah, any sort of, like if you're studying relationships, you're worrying about sales. If you're worrying about sales, you're studying relationships. In fact, back when I was first studying sales to grow my business, I was reading 2 books, you know, side by side. One is How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success by Frank Bettger, which is one of the best sales books you ever read. And the second was The Game by Neil Strauss, which is a book about pickup artists. And what was so funny about it was, I mean, this seems like they're 2 completely different subjects, but they were talking about the exact same stuff. But, you know, the results that they were looking for was just totally different. And that makes sense, man. Have you ever read Frank Bettger's book?
I have not.
I highly recommend it, man. But, you know, if you can't take the time to read it, which I'd understand, like one of the fundamental principles that he preaches in that book is the #1 rule in selling is figuring out what the other person wants and then doing everything in your power to help them get it. That's it.
Do you find that healthy aggression helps you cater like your business services?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. So early in my career developing websites, I would just, you know, bend like a willow and just give my clients whatever they wanted. And it always they loved all the stuff getting done, but they didn't like the bill at the end of the day. Which, you know, I would, you know, they would sign the agreement, so they were obligated to pay me my rate for working on all this stuff. And I tried everything. Like, I'd keep them up to date on you know, where their balance is and all that sort of stuff. But what I found was the most important thing that I do for a lot of people that come to me is I convince them that I don't work for them. As weird as that may sound. But I'll give you a fine example. This woman was referred to me, and she has like a vision from God. She really wants to build this faith-based app and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, okay, tell me a little bit about it. She explained it. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And I said to her, you know, I'm going to talk to you plainly here. It is my job to convince you to not do this on a phone app. Not because I don't want you to do what you want to do, but because if a phone app isn't the best vehicle for you to do what you want to do, we're going to find something better. And what we found was She definitely did not have the money to invest into a phone app, which is $20,000 to $100,000 minimal to even get it going. And I convinced her, just like, look, just start up a Facebook page, because everything you're talking about you can do on a Facebook page. And she's like, oh wait, I have experience managing Facebook pages. There you go. You play with the Facebook page first, and you can experiment with the model there with no startup costs, and also build your audience so that when you are ready to launch the phone app, hey, guess what? You're going to have about 50,000 people that are going to want to download that app right there. And it took healthy aggression to push on that woman that, listen, if you don't consider these things, you're gonna hurt yourself. It's like watching a toddler walk towards a electrical outlet with a fork. You gotta have a little aggression in your voice to stop them from doing something stupid.
I like the analogy you started there. It's all about finding the right vehicle to transmit your thoughts and ideas. What is your favorite vehicle to use in terms of like platforms and different ways of marketing things?
So I've always been a developer. It would be accurate to say that I've only recently become a marketer. So I read, do you know who Russell Brunson is?
No.
Very fun guy. Do you know what ClickFunnels is?
I feel like I've heard of it.
You probably have. It's a very big platform for building sales funnels, basically, for selling stuff online. Russell Brunson's a really fun, really fantastic guy. He wrote 3 books on marketing. When I was on vacation for a week a few weeks ago, I read all 3 of his books, and just blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. And because of him, I'm actually diving more. I don't know if you've been following me on Instagram, but I've been posting there regularly. I got my little podcast I started just on my phone, which has been a lot of fun. And I've been slowly but surely, building a little bit of a following there. And it all just makes total sense. So right now is like a basic vehicle for gathering attention. Instagram is my go-to. I've just noticed that there seems to be, versus like Twitter or Facebook, there just seems to be a little bit more of a response for what you put out there versus on the other platform.
Yeah. Right now, and those are kind of the main things I wanted to ask. Now I'm going to kind of open it up to you to let you share anything else you wanted to share about your topic here, or really anything.
Okay.
Anything you wanted to mention?
Well, just I know that, well, I guess we can talk about kind of how I got interested in the whole attention economy thing. And what really started it was I started digging into, and I made up a word to describe this. And the word is microaddiction. So a microaddiction is an addiction that is socially and legally acceptable. Therefore, it's not considered to be an addiction.
Coffee.
Exactly. So, coffee and, your phones, these are, scientifically proven addictive things, but it's illegal to be addicted to them, and it's socially acceptable to be addicted to them. But, look at cigarettes. For years and years and years and years, it was cool to smoke cigarettes. It was socially acceptable to smoke cigarettes. Well, then, like 10 years ago, it became illegal to smoke cigarettes inside. And, so then the legality of it cracked down, but that was, of course, after years of imposing onto kids, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke. So it was socially unacceptable to smoke cigarettes. So right now, it's socially unacceptable to smoke cigarettes, and sometimes, like illegal to smoke cigarettes. And therefore, cigarettes are much more accepted as an addiction versus your smartphone, which is still very new technology, but it is socially acceptable to be totally absorbed into that little screen for hours upon hours upon hours, and there's no legal ramifications for doing it either. So people just accept it as normal and just get completely caught up, but it still has the long-term effects of an addiction. But it's like an attention. The repercussions are attention related. And make no mistake, attention is one of your most important resources. So based on my own observations, your two most important resources are time and attention. And put together in a simple formula, your life's progression is just simply time plus attention. And it'd be accurate to say that attention is simply the utilization of your time. Now, let's imagine a world where your attention, and by extension your time, is systematically robbed from you. And it's socially and legally acceptable for people to do that. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to feel like you're going to grow old faster. It's going to feel like that everything that you truly want, it just doesn't happen because all your time and attention is being sucked up by these other things. And you're going to have serious mental issues. You're going to be a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. Now, I'd under no circumstances say that these are the core cause of this stuff, but it definitely doesn't help. And understanding that was a big turning point for me. And I actually spent some time a couple years ago. In fact, I did a talk at the farmers market here in Flint about microaddictions and the importance of understanding that you need to be able to, so finances. If you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'm sure you know it's important to set aside at least 10% of your income and keep that, and to be able to invest that. You have to approach your attention in the exact same way as well as your time. You want to make sure that a percentage of your attention and time is focused on you and taking care of you and most importantly, growing you. Because if you don't, and you're just give, now there's nothing wrong with giving, but you have to make sure that you're taken care of first. Because, what's more valuable to someone when you give once and die, or you give once, but you can live to give again? And that's why it's important that you make sure that it's just like in the airplanes. They explicitly tell you put your mask on first during an emergency before you help someone else, because you're no help to anybody when you're dead.
So, what do you think your biggest strength and your biggest weakness is? My
biggest strength is I'm a programmer that people can actually talk to. My biggest weakness, and I'm working on that right now, as you know, is I'm a little too caring. And that is, I do have a tendency to let people walk over me. But getting better about that, getting a little bit better about that. And so I'm a big studier of, a big student, we'll say, of, have you ever heard of the term attention economy?
No, but I feel like I've heard similar terms with similar meanings. Probably.
Okay, so if you're watching this video, we are robbing you of your attention right now. Your attention is now focused on us, and we've hooked it. It's a good thing or a bad thing. You have to give us permission to send you our message by giving us your attention, you see? And as you peruse your phone, the internet, as you walk down the street, little things are constantly catching your attention. And there's that saying, where the eyes go, the money flows. Whatever people are paying attention to is what typically grows. And the art of marketing is little more than the art of gathering attention. And, talking to this woman, she's like trying to come up with these answers on how to better market their business. And I'm like, listen, it's not a question of marketing your business. It's just a question of how do you best gather attention. And we came up with a list of like 12 ways that they could gather more attention for their business. And, the website was on there, sort of. The website was more or less just a place where people can gather and, see what they got going on, but nothing more than that. But the key ways of these people gathering attention, well, one of the things is that they have like this big open space at their business that they don't know what to do with, so they just let people use it for events for free. I'm like, well, when this whole COVID thing's left, hold a bi-yearly banquet for your clients. something simple like that, and begin to foster a community. What they are is they're they're an emergency response contractor. Like if your basement floods, I forget what's emergency restoration, something like that. So it's hard to market that sort of thing, because when you have a customer is when they're panicking. So instead of trying to market yourself, you instead build a community of people who have property, and then when they do panic, they know who they're going to call.
Exactly.
And this woman is highly connected with her church. I'm like, get in with your church. Work out some things with your pastor where, not only do you host events for the church at the church, but you can host it at your place of business too. There's all sorts of simple ways to generate attention for yourself, and once you hook the attention, this is where the ethics of it comes in. What are you going to do with it? Most small businesses, they just want the attention to build customers, basically, and that's great. But I have a serious problem with platforms that abuse their users and rob their attention a little too much. And there's a lot of, but you can't stop people from doing it. It was television that kind of started that whole thing. I remember reading a book about like early startup technologies, I wish I remember which one, but the first response to the television when it was invented was that everybody was too busy to take the time to sit still and watch some screen. It's amazing how short-sighted that really was. But that's exactly what it is, though. It's like we have a whole generation of people where on average, like 2 to 3 hours a day is spent staring at a screen doing nothing. And that's a lot of lost productivity that would otherwise be spent, focusing on friends, family, and your life in general.
Anything else you want to share about you, like aside from web development and anything like that?
Well, check out my site, freedomsites.com, FREYDOM sites.com. There's all my good things that I do and I've got going on there, and like I said, that is an expression of solving the Genesee County website problem. And well, actually, I'll tell you what. I'll create a coupon code, X Level Media.
Okay.
If someone goes to the site and enters that, they'll get, say 20% off their subscription.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that would be super cool.
In fact, let me write this down so I'll remind myself to. I'm big on capturing tasks, but yeah, I'll create a coupon code for you, man. Well, I hope this has been really informative for you. I know I've had a lot of fun with this interview here with X Level Media. Now, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And also, as an additional bonus to you, when you go over to Freedom Sites, because you're an awesome subscriber and you're an awesome viewer and you definitely want to check that stuff out, if you use the coupon code XLevelMedia, you'll get 20% off your monthly subscription if this is something that works out for you. Otherwise, if you got any further questions, that's also where you can find me. Feel free to reach out if you have anything you want to ask. That's about it. Take care.